Hey, now it's Rob here from Rob's School of Music, and I am here with I don't even have a legend. That's not even a big enough of a word. The
That's
guru,
sweet.
the man, uh, Paul Reed Smith himself, Mr. Paul
I'm
Smith.
supposed to talk after that. That's good.
Well,
That's really good.
well, I
Make
mean,
the first question my get out of jail free card.
well, I mean, it's as a guitar player and being, as a music school, where we're just kids are coming with all different kinds of guitars. Like, you don't get to talk to any of the you are the guy on the headstock, and here you are, and that's just such an incredible thing. Beautiful instruments, amazing instruments that I've made a living off of my adult life. So yeah, the
Well,
man.
that's good. They did their job. That's the idea.
100%. And they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous.
All right, cool.
So the first question we try and ask everyone here is, how did you get into all of it? Was there a concert or a record that
No. I've people play guitar so they get dates. I didn't do that. I like the guitar. I like the sound of it. I love the tone of it. Loved how it was changing the environment. My mother brings home a picture of these four people with long hair and turtlenecks and said, "These guys are going to be huge." It was called Meet the Beatles. My brother takes me out. And he says, "These guys are going to be huge." And there's a black guy with a fro and two eyes on his shirt, and two white guys with fros to each side of him. And I opened the record. I wasn't supposed to. And by the time I got to Are You Experienced at the end of the second side, I was cooked. It was over. It was done. I remember playing for my brother the end of Stairway to Heaven. It had just come out that day. He goes, "I'm not sure I like it." I said, "Oh, you don't know. This is going to be huge."
wow.
So, I was right in the middle of it. I love guitars. I like the sound of it. I liked all of it. It was just awesome.
Well, how did that translate into then, building your own instruments?
Well, if I played guitar at the music store, everybody ran away. But if I opened a case of something I made, it drew a crowd. And I had to pay attention to that feedback from the world. I'm not sure I liked it very much. Um, Although I am playing better these days. If I played as well then as I do now, I might not have been a guitar maker. I love playing guitar. I'd be deaf as a doornail. Um, because, in those days, your Marshall Stack was your PA. That wasn't just a guitar amp. That was a PA. The singer sang through columns. There was no mic on the guitar amp. You know, so I remember going to a concert. Johnny Winter, he looked 10 feet tall. He looked 10 feet tall. It was at the Baltimore Civic Center. Played, laughed at everybody. He was so on fire. He was laughing at everybody. He knew he was on fire. He was cracking up, singing and playing at levels you can't imagine. And I realized if I died, they'd have swept the floor. But if he died, oh, there would have been a commotion. I didn't like the way that felt. And I decided that the guitar was probably my way out of that hole.
Wow. Well, it worked.
Nobody ever asked me that question. I never gave you that answer. That's the first time I've answered that question that way.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Proprietary information. I appreciate it. First time breaking news.
Robert Anthony gets the real inside scoop, right?
There it
That's
is.
great. There
There it
it is.
is. Just a couple of dudes with three names on the screen.
But by the way, I made him put the three names up. I want everybody to know that. Admit it. Admit it.
100%. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
because when I was making your name thing, I was like, do I say Paul Smith or do I put, the
Uh,
iconic?
uh, Look, I put the middle name in because Paul Smith was second most common name in America. John Smith was the most common name. That's 3 day old coffee you're drinking. I can
It,
tell.
it sure is. It tastes like it
It
too. It's like
looks that
rocket
way.
beer.
Oh, um,
It's
so
fermented.
I put the name in. I was going to drop my last name and just be Paul Reed, like it was going to be Rob Anthony, right? But Ted Nugent put guitar by Paul Smith on the back of their free for all record, and I couldn't drop the last name, so I was dead in the water.
Well, it works. It has a powerful ring to it.
Well, this guy, Jim Greenhill, sits me saying, "Now, Paul, you're going to do real well in the South." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Paul Reed Smith rolls right off your tongue." I'm like, "Oh my God." Paul, if my Paul reads this way and my Paul reads that way, I haven't seen people tell you about something else that your name to your face is weird as shit. But am I allowed to say weird to your kids? Yeah, I guess I
You can
could.
say all words you like.
Yeah,
We're rock and roll.
not there. Are certain words are not a lot, not acceptable.
Well, I've heard quite a few on these. So
Now, certain words are not good. There's a word in a bar that gets you in a fight. All you have to do is use it. You're in a fight.
what's that
We'll
one?
talk about that offline. Let's
All
go
right.
on.
So there was a couple iconic guitar shapes, but then when yours came along, it was just sort of an evolution. How did you come up with the shape and then the inlays, the birds? When
Well,
I'm
I took a Les Paul Junior shape and I took a Strat shape and I put them on the same drawing and averaged the lines, and it didn't work. It was awful. It was ugly. And then I started working on it, and about 2 years later, I had it.
It's
We
so
kept
tricky.
sanding. We kept sanding. This was longer in the beginning. We kept sanding it down, sanding it down. I kept waking my wife to be a barber at the time. Is it done? She goes, no. It's done. No. And I kept sanding more and more off it. And I finally woke up. She says, I got to sleep. I said, I knew I was done.
Wow.
It's a true
Well,
story.
you
Carrie
nailed it.
Ziegler and I were doing it. Yeah, well, that's sweet. Look, it's a shape of a vase. It's symmetrical from here down, and then it's asymmetrical here up. Whereas a jazz bass is a gum beat. It's completely asymmetrical. Jazz bass body's really ugly, but when you put all the parts on it, it's really handsome.
Very true.
Yeah.
What about the birds? I that's probably
My
the
mother was my mother was a bird watcher, Rob. That was easy.
yeah.
We watched birds all the time. We used to sit out the window at night and listen to the whippoorwills and the poor wills and all the night songs of the birds. We knew them all.
When I'm teaching a guitar lesson, I'm often, using the inlays as a reference point for a student, third fret on it's a G and then A and so on. And they're like, but your guitar is fancy. Those aren't dots. What are those? And then it's just like always a talking point whenever I'm teaching someone, you know,
Oh, that's sweet.
yeah,
That's good. It works. Look, I never thought the birds would be a big deal. I thought maybe a third of the people would order them, but they started saying, "I got to have the birds." I was like, "What? Yeah, we got to have the birds." I was like, "No, we do the moons. No, no, got to have the birds."
oh, they're
So
beautiful. And then what about, I have a mid, I guess 95 custom 24 with the wide fat neck. And I love the way that neck feels. But then in the
yeah,
beginning, there's the wide fat, the wide thin, and now
hmm
there's the pattern and the pattern,
yeah.
the evolution of the neck. What was the process in creating that? Because that was different than what was, around back then. And then,
A wide fat and a pattern are almost the same, but when we did the pattern, we had figured out how to design the necks virtually. We didn't have to make one by hand and then copy it with lasers. We were able to do it virtually. And when we did it, we refined it and made it exactly the way we wanted. So there was a little teeny small change between a wide fat and a pattern. And instead of, you know, just doing it and people go, why did the neck shape change? We renamed it so nobody give us a hard time. I
uh,
mean, the whole industry tries to tell us how to run the company. That's the way it works.
oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, you can't change the neck shape without changing the name. I mean, hey, you've heard it all, haven't you, Rob? You can't teach my kids like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah. Hey, look, you know something? In the end, the market gives your school permission to be a school. The market gives us permission to make amplifiers and guitars. There's lots of products that come out where the market just doesn't give it this permission. I feel honored by the permission. We sell guitars and the market's accepted us. It's unbelievable, really. It's a miracle. There's 400 people here making guitars.
wow.
Mm, more than I ever thought.
But again, that's just a testament to what it is. Like I'll have, just I played one of the last big gigs I did prior to COVID taking everything away. I had the charcoal cherry burst McCarty there, and people are like, "Can I play your guitar?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not." But a couple of people just reached and put their hand around it. I guess they had never grabbed a
Yeah.
PRS before, and they're like, "Holy shit!" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, right? It's incredible."
Can you hear the reverb?
Yeah. What amp is that? Is that the Sanzera?
It's the sun's there.
Yeah. I just
When we
ordered.
were, huh?
No, go on. I interrupted you.
When we were in, no, I interrupted you. When we were in China, we needed small amps, and we used these things, and they sounded like stacks. They were great.
I ordered one of those from Bev a couple years back, and I gigged with it for a whole summer, and it was everything I needed. And I just ordered a couple of the new Archons to have here at the school, so I'm psyched for that. All the students are ready to rock. Just the tone, man. The tone is outrageous.
Well, that's my country lick.
It works. It works.
I have one country lick.
That's all you need, though, right?
No, these guys that play in Nashville studios are geniuses. They don't repeat themselves. It's a whole other thing. So, don't you have questions from your
I
students?
do. I do. I do. All right. So, this was a two-part question, so I'm going to kind of jumble it into one question, and then you can break it down however you choose. The first part of it was sort of what is the process in building a guitar from start to finish, and then the second part was the tops, the flame, the quilt. How does that happen? That was a big question. Like 5 kids asked that question.
Well, the curl comes from stress in the tree. They planted a whole bunch of seeds from curly maple trees, and none of the seeds went curly. So what they think is going on, they think, is that when baby tree is in the forest and it's getting no light, daddy tree and mommy tree are taking all the light in the canopy. When daddy tree falls over and a big hole shows up in the canopy, the little baby tree gets tons of light and grows really fast. Those go curly. You see the curl in the stump of the trees. Any place there's stress.
Wow.
Um, they took a couple of limbs off trees in my front yard, and there's curl around where the stress is, where the weight of the limb was. It happens. As far as how you make a guitar maker is a neck maker. So if you can't make a neck, you're bolting parts together, you know. But if you can make a neck, you can put the frets in the right place. You can put the truss rod in right. You can shape the neck, make sure that the headstock has the right angle, the tuning pegs are in the right place, it's inlaid well, the side dots are in the right place. All that stuff is neck making, and then you take the neck and hook it to a body, right? It's very interesting. So it's a complicated jack of all trades. It's mechanical engineering, it's electrical engineering, it's design, it's chemical engineering, it's manufacturing engineering, industrial engineering, all these things I was never trained to do. So I had to get teachers for all of it. I didn't have a college degree in electrical engineering. God, that would have been nice. Or mechanical engineering had been nice, but it would have been 30 years that I wouldn't have been making guitars. So, I mean, we're jack of all trades guitar makers.
Is there like I don't know how to ask the question. Like the wood, like it's dried out, it's aged almost. How does that
Mm-hmm.
part work?
Yeah, you got to get all the water out, and you got to get the resins crystallized. You ever been up in the attic and you see the 2x6s that hold the roof up, the little beads of resin coming out of the wood in
Sure.
the attic? That's the perfect place. You make the neck out of that wood, it'll be good. Maryland attic wood is great because 140 in the daytime and 80 degrees at night, up and down and up and down and up and down. Can't do better than that.
Wow.
Maryland attic is a perfect place to dry wood.
That's awesome.
I think that's what these violin makers were doing. They weren't torrefying the wood. They weren't cooking it like chicken in a 400-degree oven. They had it in the attic. You got to get the water out and you got to get the resins crystallized.
Oh, that makes sense.
It rings better. Well, if it's wet as a look, in the wintertime, the sponge on your sink gets hard in a few hours. But in the summertime, it stays soft all summer long. That's because the humidity in the house is higher in the summer and lower in the winter. When the humidity in the house is lower, the water leaves. But when it's not, when it's high in the house, the humidity that's in the sponge stays there. Wood's like a sponge. I want it to leave, so you get the relative humidity down by getting the temperature up. That's the way it works. It's actually pretty simple.
That's a great analogy.
Well, I mean, you've noticed it, right? Here's another one for you. You're driving down the road and you roll the back window down, and your car goes bop 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 bop. Okay, you just turn your car into a huge flute, and at 4 cycles a second, 4 hertz, it's going 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. It's basically it's below your hearing. It's beating the crap out of you. You turn your car into a flute. A guitar is vibrating anywhere from 80 times a second to 20,000 times a second. But your car is vibrating at 4 times a second when you roll the back window down. It'll beat you to death.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, but when people understand that that's what hertz is, that's what frequency is. It's the frequency at which the note is going back and forth. When the thing in the car makes sense. But I wasn't taught by schools. I was taught, trial by fire, jump in the lake and swim so you don't drown. If I didn't have a happy customer, I was out of business.
That's fantastic. All right, so I'm going to go to my next one, which kind of ties into that previous one in a different way. So over the incredible journey of your company, you've had many proprietary innovations, the locking tuners, which has evolved over time, the pickups, which there's a variety of now, and then getting into amplifiers and that world. What's the creative process in all of that? Like, do you think it up and then draw it up at trial and error? Even down to like the finishes on the guitars, like they're the most beautiful combinations of colors ever. Like, do you just, it comes to your mind, or what's the process there?
Well, with this finish, actually, this one was my idea. You take it and stain it black and sand the crap out of it. Same thing on the neck.
Wow.
But most of these colors are come up, private stock comes up with these colors, or the people on the floor come up with the colors. I don't come up with them. The first time they did a Risa Verde, which was a blue sunburst with a brown back, I said, blue and brown don't go together. You can't do that. Became like a national color. I need to shut up. I'm sorry, you're showing you're old, Paul. You've achieved geese. It's not okay. So we've got all these artists here going at it with colors. I let them free float. I don't try to control them. I let them because that guitar behind you with the red burst and the gray in the middle, that was somebody's idea on the floor. That wasn't my idea. The one that's behind the Marshall cabinet, back behind you.
Uh-huh.
Right. So that's kind of this guitar with a red burst. Unbelievable. So, I didn't think of that. Somebody else thought of that. I think it's great.
Yeah.
The thing that's weird is when other companies copy it, it used to be 2-3 years we'd have a color out before it's copied. Now, sometimes they copy it before we get it out. Somebody will take a picture on a tour and we're dead.
Wow.
It was when they start taking the names of the colors that really bothered me.
Yeah, you guys, the custom 24 I mentioned earlier from the 90s, it's the Scarlet Sunburst is what it was called.
Yeah.
Back then, red to the black.
Yeah.
And like I first saw one of those guitars at a guitar store when I first started playing in like 97 or something. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the guitar that I'm going to want to get. And then down years later, with help from Win, actually, I got one of those guitars. And you search that word on like Reverb, and all these other people have that finish, but that's a PRS finish. That's your title.
Scarlet Sunburst.
Yeah.
My first wife, Barbara, was involved in the company, and we were naming colors royal blue and vintage yellow and the sailor. And I said, we're calling this one whale blue. She says, you can't do that. There's no such color as whale blue. I said, it's the color of the blue of a whale. And she goes, you can't do that. I said, well, I'm doing it anyway. That didn't go well. But I mean, leprechaun's tooth. There's been a lot of colors here. Yeah. Dragon's breath, glows. There's all kinds of colors. They've come up with some names. Angry Larry was an interesting one. It was a color Larry turned when he got mad. Bonnie Pink. There have been a lot of great colors that came from Bonnie Lloyd. I don't know. Look, it's fun, right? I
Yeah,
mean, we've got pedals have got incredibly strange names. So it's been accepted at this point. You know, I like it. I like the whole thing.
it's
I
incredible.
look. I wanted to make 80 of one color, and people want something that they've never seen before. They want something that's personal. You know, I just wanted to make a good guitar. I never even cared about the color. I only cared about how well it played and how well it sounded. But I had rock stars look at me and go, "How's it look when I put it on in a mirror?" I said, "What?" And it meant something to them. They wanted to look good. Well, 80% of information is brought in with people's eyes. It made sense to me now. It makes sense to me now. But at the time, it was like, don't you want to plug it in and play it? I already like the way it plays. I'm sure we can get the pickup straight now. Wow.
Well, actually, this next question ties into exactly what you just said. So, PRS instruments have been such an integral part of the sound of artists and iconic records: Santana, Mark Tremonti, Dave Navarro, Zach Myers, John Mayer. Um, when you're designing those instruments, the signature instruments with those artists, oh no,
Yeah.
bad question.
No, perfect question. I'm just preparing for the real question that you're going to hit me in the head with. I was emotionally preparing for the shot. Go.
Oh no, that was it. What is the
No. What's
designing
it?
the collaborative process between you and
Yeah.
the artist? Yeah.
Oh, it's that simple.
Oh yeah. I mean, we can make it more
Huh.
complicated. Yeah. I
No,
mean,
no, no, no. I'll take that. Mark Tremonti worked really hard with Win on that pickup for the Tremonti guitar. I mean, it was 6 dB louder than any pickup I had, 8 dB, 10 dB more bass than I'd ever heard. Um, but Mark wanted a lot of bass. He wanted this thunderous tone. Um, working with Carlos will tell us what he wants, but he doesn't get intimately involved in it. But David Grissom got intimately involved in the DGT pickup. Um, John Mayer and I have a back and forth about pickups almost daily. It's not so hard to make a single coil that sounds like an old Flying V to a Marshall. Not so easy. Because most of those single coils are so bright in the treble position, it sounds like an ice pick.
yeah.
Yeah, but they can sound huge, and there's a real reason for it. And I've spent a lot of engineering time on that. So, um, like this pickup is a humbucker, right? But listen, it sounds like a single coil. Listen to this. That don't sound like a humbucker. That sounds like a single coil. That took a long time to figure out. Humbuckers don't sound like humbuckers because they're humbuckers, and single coils don't sound like single coils because they're single coils. A jazz bass is a humbucker. A P bass is a humbucker. A Strat, where you've got it in the middle between the treble and the middle, one's out of phase, uh, is a humbucker.
Right.
But don't sound like a humbucker. Sounds like a. But a lot of old PAFs sound like Strat pickups. So it's got to have something to do with something else. God, that took a long time to figure out. But that, this is, if I turn the treble up on this amp and do that again, that doesn't sound like a humbucker to me.
Not at all.
Yeah, well, should. I mean, it's got two coils. It should sound like a humbucker, but it doesn't. And what's that about? I actually think this company has a real handle on the beginnings of that. Real handle on making humbuckers that sound like beautiful, big, thick single coils. That's got more high end than a P90.
The pickups, I mean, I don't want to go off the questions, but just focusing on the pickups, like what you guys are doing, like even like the single coil. I don't know if this will be audible, but like all that stuff in the Silver Sky, like these are my favorite single coil, like true single coil sound ever. And I was nervous about that as a PRS guy because I loved the humbucker single coil
Yeah,
sound. So I was like, how's that going to work? And just like, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's just you
I can
nailed
hear
it.
it.
Yeah.
Well, that's sweet. Have you ever played a real 63 Strat, a real one, not a copy?
No.
Let me tell you a story, and your students will probably resonate with this. I'm at Chicago Music Exchange, which is a big museum. And I'm talking about, 63 Strats and 59 Les Pauls and all these things that, are inspirations for the guitars and places I learned from. And the guy stands up in the middle. He goes, Paul, Paul, Paul. I said, what? He goes, Paul, we've never played a 63 Strat. We've never played a 59 Les Paul. We've only played the reissues. We don't know what you're talking about. I went, oh no. I've spent my whole career going around and playing these old guitars at vintage shows. And these guitars that he was talking about were hanging on the wall behind me. I said, they're hanging on the wall behind me. And I looked at the owner, David. I said, David, they can play them, right? And he goes, no. I went, oh, no. And basically what they were saying is they thought a 59 Strat was a reissue. They thought a 59 Les Paul was a reissue. And I'm telling you, that's not the way it works. We got the old ones and the new ones out and got a stopwatch out. The old ones were bringing twice as long.
Wow.
So when you say that about the Silver Sky, I'm telling you that that's what a 63 or 64 old Fender sounds like. And Tim, we got somebody told me I farted in a spacesuit when we released the Silver Sky. Now that person has apologized and uses it every day. But the thing that was fascinating about it was that we were getting killed. And then Tim Pierce did this video online, a 65 Strat compared to, it was $20,000 versus $2,000. That was the name of the video. I said, Tim, how did they sound different? He says, I couldn't hear the difference. I was like, oh my God, we're home. And everybody shut up the next day. The whole industry was trying to kill me. And then the next day, it was silent. There's another video online where the guy's got an old guitar. He's got a 62 Strat or something. And he finally picks it up at the end of doing the whole Silver Sky video demo. And he goes, oh no, my guitar's way quieter. What? I mean, he was like, you could see him. He was stunned. And he left it in the video. Saved our ass.
Yeah, I had interviewed Tim Pierce about a year ago.
Yeah.
And we referenced that video because I was talking about the
Yeah.
Silver Sky.
Yeah.
It's just great work, and it's exciting as a music school owner, yes, but as a musician, as a guitar player, a guy who, like I said, make my living on these instruments, to keep having these innovations of these vintage style instruments. That was one of the other questions from one of the students was, some of the guitar designs of Silver Sky, the 594, they're kind of built around innovating those classic designs. So the fact that you're being along the way what you're trying to make a better version of,
yeah. Well, we retooled an old design. Yeah. Everything. The thing that welled me up when we did it was when I wrapped my hand around the neck. The neck shape had been retooled for the first time in 50 years. We had it dead on.
Wow.
I was like, wow. Mike Simba brought it to me, and I wrapped my hand around it, and I welled up, and I went, oh, crap. Tell you a story. I was at a vintage guitar show, and this guy walks up, and he's got a sign on it says 57 Strat, $14,000. That guitar is worth 32, probably 22,000 wholesale, right? And I reached over and I put my hand around the neck, just the way you said your friend did the other day, right? And I went, oh no, a real one. And I could tell backwards by putting my hand around it that it was shaped right. So I said to the guy, I said, don't move, it's sold. So I brought him over in the booth and I said, it's worth more than that. Where did you get it? He goes, well, my friend passed away. It's his wife, so I'm trying to help her out. I said, well, we can get you about $6,000 more for it than you want, than you're asking, and I'll help you. And I helped him. And he was very sweet about it. He looked for me for 2 hours to thank me, which it's like, who are you? He says, I'm the guy that sold the guitar. But I really, there's something about the history of our business that you can literally tell by just reaching over and grabbing it. It feels different. You know that.
100%.
Yeah. So there you go. So your logo has a piano. Do you put a strap on and wear a piano?
One of the other guys here does that. Yes, actually his
Ah, I
promo
see.
picture is him playing a guitar from 1987. So
Ah,
kind of
okay. So
yes,
yeah, is it orange?
it is not, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, keep going.
All right. Um,
Look, if we don't have fun and be playful, people are going to turn this stuff off. You
uh,
got that part, right?
I am made of fun, so this is awesome.
All right, good.
All right, so this question was okay. I'll go do this one first. You're trapped on a desert island. What guitar, amp, and pedal would you take? You have power. You have endless batteries. So
My private stock acoustic.
nice.
I've had a lot of people ask me similar questions, and I have a wild answer, but you didn't let me in. They said, if you were in a box and you had to live the rest of your life in a box, where would it be? What would the box look like? I said it would be 7 miles high, 40 miles wide, 4 miles deep on a beach in Tahiti, and every hut would have a woman in it. Now, they said, Paul, that's an interesting paradigm. Yeah, you asked me about a pedal, guitar, and amp, and I want to take an acoustic.
Okay, fair answer. Fair answer. I've played. I have a couple of the SE acoustics, and they're fantastic. I've yet to play a one of the private stock ones, but that is on my bucket list. All right, this is another just personal preference question. What are your thoughts on amp modeling technology versus tube amps? And there's no wrong answer.
Yeah, there is. I believe in it. We were involved in the first amp modeling that Waves did, deeply involved, Peter Denenberg and I. And I was involved in the last one they did. The PRS amps are available as Waves plugins. And we were at a session once and they were using a Waves plugin because the session went to midnight. We couldn't play that loud. The next day, they wanted to replace it. And I listened. I said, I can't beat that. I can't beat it tone wise. I can't. I believe in amp modeling, but it's all in the execution. Um, it's not just because it's an amp modeler doesn't mean anything. The original amp modelers were these pods, right?
Mhm.
Well, actually, even earlier than that, there was an analog amp modeler that the guy in Boston made. It was called um, it was a little blue box about this big, and it, you know, worked like a charm. Had chorus and echo and reverb, and was a little analog one. So I believe in amp modeling. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's beautiful. I worked really hard to get the industry started on the wave stuff. And I think people was in disbelief about how good it sounded. It's like, that can't sound that good. But we worked really hard. I learned a lot about amplifiers doing that. I mean, we were sweeping cabinets. We weren't doing it the way they do it now uh, with this sound that goes, yeah, yeah. Um, we were doing it with sweeps and looking at the harmonic content and getting the frequency response right and getting all the harmonic content right and getting all the bass notes exactly right. We were doing it differently. Um, but my experience is it's a good idea. Now, to that end, I bought a lot of amp modelers for reverbs for my studio, and still the old lexicons and EMT boxes that weren't modeling, they were more of a gorgeous imitation to get it to sound right in the studio. I like those better.
All right. Yeah,
There,
that
there was yeah,
no go.
no, there's a reverb in at the top of the hill in Picau. I can't remember how you pronounce it in France. And there was the church up there. If you stomped on the floor, it's the most beautiful reverb you'd ever want to hear in your life. I always
Really?
wanted to model that just to see what it was like.
That question always creates a great divide because some people are so diehard one way or diehard the other. But I like, you know,
It works. It works. Who
yeah,
cares?
exactly. On
I
the
mean,
rec,
this works. You know, that reverb is a spring modeler of a room.
yeah,
It just happens to be analog. I don't care. Seems fine to me.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. You know something? People should pay attention to how good it sounds. I remember there was this really famous guy in DC. He goes, "You meant it to sound like that?" In other words, maybe you should listen a little more before you used it. I don't know. There's an amplifier in our industry called a deluxe reverb, a blackface deluxe reverb. It's industry standard. It's like having chicken at the grocery store. You know, they just work. This clean channel sounds a little cleaner than a deluxe, but in a good way.
Hmm.
You know, I like our amps. I like all this stuff, but I'm listening. Ted Jensen, the great mastering engineer, he says we use digital when digital works, and we use analog when analog works. And we take the best of both worlds. Oh my God, is he good at mastering? Oh, there's a reason he started at Hotel California and went from there.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, the amps. I mean, the two channel H back there. I go to that. That's one of my favorite clean sounding amps, and then I'll push it with pedals. Great
yeah.
stuff. Great stuff.
All right.
All right. So this question, I'm going to lead into it with this. So, as someone who's been following you for years and watching videos and interacted, a handful of times casually, your passion about what you do is absolutely infectious and inspiring. Yes, 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 yes. You talk about your instruments in a way that makes you listen to every word and appreciate everything that's happening. Aside from the guitar and amplifier part of your life, what is a day in the life of Paul Smith? Do you have daily routines, health, wellness practices? Is it the same every
All
day? Is
right.
it different?
It's different every day, but it's the same every day. So I have 4 herniated discs in my back from lifting guitar amplifiers my whole life, carrying Marshalls on the train to being in the Hard Rock Cafe. We were the house band there. Oh, but I wanted the tone, so I brought my amp. I carry it on the train. And my back did a little wear and tear, so I have to go to physical therapy regularly. I get up at 5:45. I make coffee for my wife and myself. I'm at work by 7, and we go after the first hour what we're the signing of the private stocks and checking them and setting the day up. And every single day, we have a meeting called One a Day. We're trying to solve one problem a day. So one thing has to go away today. Today, we found a new nut material. We've been working on it for 2 years. Today, one of the problems went away. We actually found out how certain kinds of magnets were made today that we've been looking for a year. We could maybe 2 or 3 issues that happen in one a day. But if you bought a company that was messed up and it had 250 problems, you better fix one a day, or in a year you're still going to have 250 problems. And so, since we're not going to buy a company, I realized let's do it ourselves. So we go after it every single day. So that's different every day. If Carlos needs something, or John Maris needs something, or David Grissom needs something, or whoever, Jimmy Herring. God, what a good guitar player that man is!
Yeah.
Holy crap! Um, we're able to. I was able to have a conversation with Eric Johnson the other day, who I adore. He absolutely knows what he's doing. He's after it all the time, after it, after it, after it, after it. And he's not playing PRSs, which is fine. He's not, but we're becoming friends, and I really enjoy his expertise. You ever stood on the side of the stage or anywhere near him playing?
I've been pretty close at the yeah,
It's good, isn't it?
yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. So Herring too, Carlos too, Mayer too. I mean, you start listing them; they're all really good. Oh, I should have turned my phone off. That was stupid.
I like
Hang
that
on a
ringtone.
minute. Yeah, well, it's a steel drum. All right, I answered your question.
You did. You did. Yeah, with the John Mayer's that new tune coming out tomorrow, and a Silver Sky is all over the promotional stuff for it. It looks
Yeah.
as though it may be a different color. I don't know if we can ask that question, but it looks like
No, I can't answer that question.
yeah, but that looks
No,
cool.
you can't be
Okay.
my marketing department, Rob. It's not going to work.
I just popped in my mind because you said John Mayer.
Everybody, the whole internet's lit up about it. Next
Yeah.
question.
All right, sir. So this is honestly, this is my my finale section of all of this because you really just answered every question incredibly, and thank you so much for just the time and the value you've provided and the insight. This part is where it gets super loose and fun. So I'm going to ask you a series of this or that questions, all gear and music related. You don't have to justify your answer, but it's more fun if you do. Are you ready?
Sure.
Alrighty.
I've been waiting for the bomb to drop the whole time. Go on.
No, we keep it easy. Nothing crazy. This is fun. All right, humbucker or single coil, if you had to choose.
Both.
Okay, because you can do both. Yes. Okay.
I'll tell you what. Humbucker. Let me explain why. Have you ever been in a club where the hum was louder than the amp?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a
I agree.
problem.
Okay.
The Crazy Horse in DC, the hum was louder than the amp, louder than the guitar.
Yeah, that won't work.
No, this is not good.
Okay, fair answer. I'm okay with it. Would you prefer a tremolo or stop tail piece, hardtail?
Me personally or the world?
For you, these are Paul Smith questions. Your opinion is the only one that matters on your perfect, guitar, which is an impossible question to ask, but yeah.
I like both. I got the rights to re-record Machine Gun from the Hendrix people. There's a video online about it, us doing it. And that tremolo was part of what I used. Without that, it would have not been quite the same. But I learned how to bend notes with my hand. So, instead of going, I go, or so I'm bending the notes. But I didn't have an arm. So I learned how to do it without an arm. I mean, that's just kind of the way I learned. The first notes were badly out of tune, but I had it by about, I don't know, 25% of the way into that. I was playing Amazing Grace, bending all the notes like a low D whistle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fantastic. All right. All right.
Yeah.
That's I'll take that answer. All
But
right. Now,
but Jeff Beck's doing it with the arm.
but that sounded like Jeff Beck, and that was all in your
Yeah,
hands.
well, I was bending. I was playing a half step flat and bending the notes up.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, try playing one fret too low and getting it in tune. Oh my God! So there's a guitar lesson.
Love that.
Bend them
I
in
like it.
tune.
All right. So anyone who's going to watch this in the future, when that was the lesson that you were taught that week, that's where it came from. All right. On your guitar now, if you had to choose this or that, 22 frets or 24 frets?
22. I like the bass pickup closer to the neck. Next.
Okay. For your guitar pick, is it a thin, medium, or thick?
I grew up on Fender heavies. Everything has always been for me a kind of a Fender heavy. I reach in my pocket. It's a PRS pick with a Carlos Santana kind of logo on it. See here.
Yep.
Um, Works. I
Okay.
don't know. It's industry standard. You hand somebody a Fender Heavy or a PRS Heavy that's made out of, you know, that kind of hard plastic, and nobody complains. Don't you have one of these?
Perfectly fair. All right. Now for your strings, do you like nines, tens, or 11s?
Used to play nines, then nine and a halfs, then tens. I'm never going to go back.
Yeah. I like the tens as well. All
Mm,
right. Now what about your fretboard material? Do you prefer rosewood, ebony, or maple?
Rosewood, but because that's what I grew up on. But maple's fine and ebony's fine. Although more rock stars play rosewood old Les Pauls than they do ebony fretboard old Les Pauls.
Is there tonal differences between if it's the Brazilian rosewood or the East Indian rosewood or,
Yeah, it all has to do with weight and resonance, and yeah, there are tonal differences, but they're very minute. If you play the note open with a bone nut and a bridge, and there's no fretboard in the equation, But yeah, there are tonal differences. But you asked a question. I like rosewood fretboards. I always have. But you're asking, kind of the way I grew up. If I'd have grown up on a telly with a maple fretboard, it might be different.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That these questions are designed to, from your perspective. So there are no wrong answers. There's one wrong answer later on. We'll see if that one gets there. Do you prefer amp gain or pedals?
I'm known for plugging straight in, and people going, "Where are the pedals?" I'm known for it. Here, let's just hang on a minute. I'll just do it right now. We only got a few minutes left, so just hang in there with me.
No worries. I only have like 8 more of the rapid fire.
No
Sounds fantastic.
pedal.
It works. It works.
No pedal.
Yeah, in real life, I prefer the I'm an amp gain guy also. So in line with those, your amplifier, do you like 6L6, 6V6, EL34, or EL84 tubes?
They all work.
All right.
Our amps are tube agnostic.
Okay. All right. Do you prefer a 100-watt amp or a 25-watt amp? Because there's that whole craze with the low wattage stuff.
I don't think a 100-watt amp would have worked for this interview.
Mm-hmm.
Although in my studio, running a 100-watt amp and putting the cabinet downstairs with a mic on it sounds stupid good. My favorite amp that I use for solos is a 50-watt amp, and this favorite amp I use for rhythm is a 100-watt amp. And I'm using 100-watt amps a lot, but then again, I've got a cabinet downstairs in a room that I can close the door in, and
Right.
I'm using an SM7 with the presence switch on, which turns the EQ in that mic off. And if you watch the Queen movie, you see what mic's on that amp? SM7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay.
Yeah, it's good. Works.
All right. So I'm just a couple effect pedal questions. You just said
You're gonna have to go quick. We're running out of time here.
delay or reverb.
Delay or reverb?
You got to pick one.
Reverb is a form of delay. It's not a fair question. Reverb. Next.
Okay. Phaser or chorus?
Both. Don't go any farther. Both.
Alrighty.
I'm sorry, I have univibes. Those are phasers. And I have chorus pedals. Playing through a Leslie is a flanger. But this is a long conversation. We can have a whole nother interview about that shit. Next.
All right. This is the last part. Just a couple of band related questions. Beatles or Stones?
I never bought Stones records. I bought Beatles records, but the Stones are extraordinary. You know, I'm sorry, it's easy to play a Stones tune. They're cool.
Okay.
Beatles tunes are harder to play.
They are.
Oh God, yes. To play them really well.
Oh,
Have
no,
you
they are.
listened?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, Beatles tunes. They had a they. You can hear that they did the tune 10 times, and when they wasn't to the 10th one, it sounded like a tune. And they're harder to play.
Agreed. They're harder to teach too, because there's like a swagger to it that's hard to feel. And all right, two more for you, Paul, and then I thank you for your time.
By the
Uh,
way, for your students, I did not rush that tune. I
I felt
didn't play it too fast, and I didn't play it too slow.
it felt perfect to me. And that's one that people push all the time.
I'm sorry. Get out of metronome. I've been taught by the best, the Granger brothers. Oh my God, they're on my ass.
All right,
Next.
two more. Within the Beatles world, John or Paul?
Not fair.
I know. I'm
They
sorry.
were partners. That's not fair.
I know. I suck.
They used to write a song every day, and one day they didn't have a song, and they look at the TV and said, "Good day, sunshine." They had a tune. That's not fair. John was a genius. Paul was absolutely a genius. George Harrison had a moment where he realized he was in a band full of geniuses. And sorry, not going to answer it.
Already?
John, but John has my heart.
Okay. There's
That's
no
a
wrong answer.
different. No, there is a wrong answer. John has my heart.
Okay.
I wish I had met him.
Right?
I have the words to Real Love that he hand wrote up in my studio that I got from Yoko Ono.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Got it for Father's Day.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Next.
All right. Zeppelin or Pink Floyd?
I've listened to Zeppelin way more than Pink Floyd, but that's not fair either. Jimmy Page changed our industry, and Pink Floyd changed our industry, and Robert Plant changed our industry, and Bonham changed our industry, and John Paul Jones changed our industry. And I'm sorry, that's not fair.
Okay, I'll give you the last one. I think the last one is fair because it's just purely preference. It has nothing to do with
Gilmore. Oh my God. I'm sorry, not fair. Next.
Okay, well then, so David Gilmour is one of my favorite guitar players. That I will.
Then why would you ask me that?
Because I'm a jerk, and that's what I got to do.
No, it's not a jerk. Next.
All right, Dark Side of the Wall.
Dark Side of the Moon.
Okay, so that one was easy. We end on an easy one.
But that's because Dark Side of the Moon has more of my heart than The Wall. But metal, MEDDLE, changed the way prog rock happened for the rest of the eternity. Delicate Sound of Thunder is extraordinary. I mean, when you want to start listing tunes, how about the guitar solo in Money in 4 when the rest of the tunes in, Odd Time?
7, yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's great. So, yeah, let's change it to 4 during a guitar solo. Oh, that sounds like fun. Let's do that. Right.
It's funny when I asked that question.
The horn player played it in an odd tempo. Yeah. The horn solo is in an odd tempo. It's not till the guitar solo comes up that it goes into 4.
I love picking apart stuff. I asked that question. A lot of people are like, actually, it's Animals. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's a cool answer too. Yeah.
Animals is cool, but there's plenty of right answers.
Well, those
how about the reverb? How about the reverb on Dark Side of the Moon? That was one EMT 140 plate that they used about 1,000 ways. If you read what the engineer said, he says these people were very, very studio savvy. He says they rode the engineer pretty hard.
Well, they created a masterpiece in doing so.
Really? I can't imagine. I met him once. He was a sweetheart. I met Gilmore once. He goes, "Nice tone,
huh?" Yes. Wow. Well, this has been awesome. Like, thank you so much for your time and just having fun with me and all of this. This has been great.
Problem.
I look forward to hopefully this January there being a NAMM show and getting to see all the cool new stuff and everything going there, and just everything you guys are doing is fantastic. So just thank you for making guitars, because your guitars changed my life. And thank you.
That's sweet. Can I quote Alexander Dumble at the very end of this?
You may.
He said, "Did you really listen to it? It's important. Listening is really important. Listening to your teacher, listening to the guitar, listening to the amp, listening to the reverb, listening to the tone controls, listening to the amp cabinet, listening to the microphone placement. Listen, listen, listen. These people that are famous for your students are monsters at listening. They do shootouts constantly. They know exactly what's going on and they're learning at an alarming rate, as you know. All right. Thank you for having me. That was fun. Rob, I like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That makes my day. So
Your
stay
name's
safe.
almost like a mafia name.
I don't even know what the mafia is. What are you talking about? That's not a thing.
my 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 mother was Ernestine Sadati. Her sisters were Ida, Olga, and Anna. So the Italian thing. We used to sit down at noon for dinner, and we wouldn't get up till 8 o'clock at night. They just wouldn't crib. They brought food all day long.
Yep. I'm very familiar. We used to do our band practices on Sunday. They would start at 11 a.m.
Yeah,
We would break for food, and then all of a sudden everyone's going home at 11 p.m. Fat as could be. We barely played any music, and my family just
yeah.
fed us all day long. So, yep.
Thank you. See you.
Awesome, Paul. Thanks so much. Be
All
well.
right. Well done. Well done. Thank you. Bye bye.